The next thing we saw were drones, a lot of drones flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. Helicopters then appeared. Those are the Chinooks that were sending the Delta Force individuals. So the Chinooks were carrying Delta Force operators into Venezuela. At one point, they launched something. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt like my head was exploding from the inside. We all started bleeding from our noses. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. We couldn't even stand up after that sonic weapon or whatever it was. The United States has tested previously unused SES sonic weapons in an attack on Venezuela, using this country as a testing ground, said Pedrino Lopez, head of the General Staff of the Venezuelan Army. The United States has tested previously unused sonic weapons in an attack on Venezuela. What exactly took place during the Delta Force raid and the kidnapping of Venezuelan President Maduro and his wife Celia Flores, we still really know nothing about. We don't know what went down. There's a lot of stories out there. One of the stories was that there was some supersonic super weapon that was utilized against President Maduro's security. Frankly, I thought that was so ludicrous and insane. I think I even cracked jokes about it here on this stream. I didn't even cover it. I was like, that's insane. That's insane. Super weapon that immediately caused all the security people to like start bleeding from their mouth, nose, and eyes, ears, like vomiting everywhere. They're all, falling on the ground, passing out. Like, I'm like, that's insane, right? Well, if this was just like MAGA $7,000 per month per post, Netanyahu accounts posting this, I wouldn't be sharing this with you. I wouldn't be talking about this with you. But we now have Trump, who has confirmed that is what they did. And they used this new weapon called the discombobulator. That's its name. I guess it's a nickname. And also the defense minister of Venezuela, Pedrino Lopez. He has come out and basically confirmed that, yes, that is what happened. So initially, my stance, and I think most people's read of the situation, the raid on President Maduro, was this right here. Here's Larry Johnson talking about what he thought had happened, which was that there was some sort of corruption, mass corruption, stand-down order, and the air defenses were not utilized because there was a stand-down order.
How do you explain the Russian air defense systems and the lack of effectiveness in Venezuela and in the 12-day war in Iran? Now, in Venezuela, I think you explained it in the show we had last time. You think there was a stand-down order. A few people think that.
Yeah.
So is that the explanation there? And what do you make of Iran as well?
No, I know there was a stand-down order. I was in communication with someone who's involved with the person who was giving the turn-off order of a senior Venezuelan general. So, yeah, there was a stand-down order there. And in Iran during the 12-day war.
So Larry Johnson has gone on record saying that he has insider sources, Larry Johnson, obviously former CIA, insider sources saying that there was a stand-down order from a senior general. Could be true. Could be true. Could be both things. The question is, what was more effective? Because obviously you're sending in 32 Delta Force guys. Like, you don't want to risk the fact that even one of them is going to get killed or seriously injured. That would be a huge L for the United States if that happened and became public knowledge. So you want to make sure you have all your bases covered and more. So I'm sure there was a stand-down order, but I'm sure also there was a lot of other things going on. President Trump claims a secret weapon disabled Russian and Chinese rockets, air defenses effectively, during the raid that captured Venezuelan President Maduro. He said that this weapon is called the discombobulator, disabled Venezuelan defenses during a January 3rd raid. Claims the device was caused enemy systems to fail, allowing U.S. troops to arrest Maduro without American casualties. They never got their rockets off. They had Russian and Chinese rockets. They never got one off. We came in, they pressed buttons and nothing worked. They were all set for us. Now, there have been, supposed Venezuelan military officials that have gone on, quote unquote, gone on record speaking with U.S. media outlets. I hesitate to believe those statements. But this was all detailed in a new New York Post article. New York Post obviously is fully CIA intelligence community rag. But this is allegedly what one of them said. Suddenly, all our radar systems shut down without any explanation. The next thing we saw were drones, a lot of drones flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. Helicopters then appeared. Those are the Chinooks that were sending the Delta Force individuals. So the Chinooks were carrying Delta Force operators into Venezuela. At one point, they launched something. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt like my head was exploding from the inside. We all started bleeding from our noses. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. We couldn't even stand up after that sonic weapon or whatever it was. I mean, look, you guys, I've seen the security apparatus that protects Maduro. I've seen them on numerous occasions. They're trained by the Russians. They're Cubans, massive guys with a lot of really high-tech equipment. When I heard that like 32 of them were killed and not a single casualty, or there was like one minor casualty on the Delta Force operators, it didn't make sense to me. Even if you take into account the fact that, of course, there was probably some level of betrayal, treason, stand down order, right? Okay. Even if that's the case, it's like, couldn't have been all of them. Couldn't have been every single member of the personal security. Couldn't have been, every single member of the military. Like, what are we doing here? We're just going to sit here and act like each and every person was just like, yeah, actually, no, I give up. Actually, no, yeah, okay, goodbye. Come on. Now, do I fully believe this, like, sonic weapons story? I don't know if I fully believe it, but I definitely believe it a lot more today than I did yesterday. And this story's been circled around for some time. I just didn't cover it. But we now have Pedrino Lopez, who is the defense minister of Venezuela, who in a speech before the Venezuelan military, new recruits, new graduates or something of the military, he came out and said, the United States has tested previously unused SES sonic weapons in an attack on Venezuela, using this country as a testing ground, said Pedrino Lopez, head of the General Staff of the Venezuelan Army. The United States has tested previously unused sonic weapons in an attack on Venezuela, using this country as a testing ground. We also have this right here. He said they use weapons against us that had never been used on a battlefield before, weapons that no one else in the world possess. This made Venezuela the laboratory for these weapons. So, yeah, he also went on in another statement to talk about the fact that, AI technology was also used in the attack. In this very same space where we are right now, military aggression was committed by the world's leading lethal nuclear power. As President Donald Trump said yesterday from Davos, Switzerland, from the World Economic Forum that takes place annually there in Davos, he said it expressly, clearly, that they had used weapons that had never been used on a battlefield. Weapons that no one else in the world had. And those weapons, that technology, they used against our people on January 3rd, 2026. Venezuela has turned out to be the laboratory where that aggression ended in what we already know, the kidnapping of our president, Nicolas Maduro, the president chosen by these people. So that's pretty damn crazy. I'm not going to lie. Not going to lie. Vladimir Pedrino Lopez denounced the U.S. used Venezuela as a laboratory by attacking with weapons never before used and assisted by the highest level artificial intelligence. Okay. We also have this statement from the interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, who came out and for the first time admitted yesterday that the minute they kidnapped the president, they gave Diosdado Cabello, who's the head of security in Venezuela, they gave Diosdado Cabello, Jorge Rodriguez, who is the interim president's brother and also the chairperson of the National Assembly, and me, Delcy Rodriguez, 15 minutes to comply or kill us. They told us that President Maduro and his wife had been murdered, not that they were kidnapped. We said, we are ready to suffer the same fate. We hold to that statement to this day because the threats are permanent. Blackmail is permanent. There you go. What do you think? Do you think that they use sonic weapons with AI capabilities that cause people to fall to the ground, vomit blood, and blood started coming out of their eyes, nose, ears, mouth? You know, to be honest, I wouldn't put it past them. I would not put it past them. It's the goy beam being used on the Catholic Venezuelans. I would not be surprised by any of that. But I don't know. What do you think? Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.